third grade worksheet, lesson 21. In this lesson, we'll go over tessellations and solid figures. Tell if each figure will tessellate. Write yes or no. So tessellating means that the figure can repeat over and over again without making any gaps. So for number 1, we have a triangle. And if we add more triangles to its edges, like this, we can see that it leaves no gaps. And we can keep doing this without it ever changing. So this is called a tessellation. So number 1 is yes. Number 2, we have an octagon. So we try drawing an octagon on 2 of its sides. So one here and one here. We can see that it leaves a gap that isn't the octagon. So this figure doesn't tessellate. Number 3, a circle. Now a circle obviously doesn't tessellate because when you try drawing 2 circles, it leaves a tiny gap here. So this is also no. Number 4, we have a rectangle. If you try adding a rectangle on all 4 sides, you can see that it works. So this is yes. Number 5, looks like we have a cube and it's angled a little. But that doesn't matter because if you draw the same cube over and over, it repeats without leaving any gaps. So this is also yes. Finally, for number 6, we have a pentagon. Now, if you draw a pentagon very carefully on 2 sides, so like that, and like that, you can see that it leaves a little gap here that isn't a pentagon. So that means that this figure doesn't tessellate. Name the solid figure that each object looks like. So number 1, we have what looks like 4 triangle faces, and if you from the image, we can imagine that there's 2 more triangle faces on the back. And we can also tell that there's a square base. So this would be called a pyramid. For number 2, it looks like we have a gift in the shape of a cube because it has all square sides. So you can imagine the 3 other sides facing away from us. And for number 3, we have a baseball, which is obviously in the shape of a sphere because it's round. There are no flat faces. Which solid figure has a face shown? And ignore the second part here. So for number 1, we have a solid figure that has 4 triangle faces and 1 square face. So we said earlier that one of the figures had 4 triangle faces and a square base, and you could try imagining that figure in your mind. So this is a pyramid, as we said earlier. For number 2, it looks like we have all rectangles. And so if you try imagining a shape with all of these faces, you'll get something that looks like this. And this is what we call a rectangular prism. And that's because it has all rectangles on its sides. Now, note that a square is also a rectangle. So all the faces could be squares as well and still be called a rectangular prism. Word problems. Number 1, Lily is organizing her toy blocks. She has 3 cubes, 2 rectangular prisms, and 1 cylinder. How many solid figures does Lily have in total? So we just add up the amount of solid figures. So she has 3 cubes, plus 2 rectangular prisms, plus 2, and 1 cylinder, plus 1. 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 6, so she has 6 solid figures. Number 2, Tom is building a rocket using different shapes. He uses a cone for the top, a cylinder for the middle, and a cube for the base. How many solid figures did Tom use to build his rocket? So you used a cone, a cylinder, and a cube. That's 1 plus 1 plus 1, which is just 3. 3 solid figures. Number 3. Emma is making a pattern on her notebook. She uses only hexagons to cover the page without leaving any gaps. What is this type of pattern called? So as we said earlier, tessellations are patterns that use the same shape over and over again. They repeat and they don't leave any gaps. So it looks like Emma only used hexagons and they didn't leave any gaps. So that means this is a tessellation too. Number 4. Daniel is tiling his floor. He notices that the tiles are all squares and they fit together perfectly without any spaces. Is Daniel's floor an example of a tessellation? Why or why not? So we said earlier that a tessellation has a repeated image over and over without any gaps. So this fits the description. Oops. Yes, it does. And you could say that it's a tessellation because it doesn't have any spaces and it uses the same shape over and over.